Have you ever wondered how your mind actually works? Why do we remember some things so vividly while completely forgetting others? For most of us, forgetting can be frustrating. But what if I told you that it's actually one of our brain's greatest superpowers? Imagine a world where you never forgot anything. Would that make life easier? Or much, much harder? Today, we're diving into why our brains are programmed to forget and how that benefits us more than we realize. Forgetting is usually seen as a flaw, but in reality, it's one of our biggest advantages. Every day, without even noticing, we benefit from our brain's ability to selectively erase information. Take Solomon Cheryshev, for example. He was a Russian man from the late 1900s who had an extraordinary memory. He could recall every detail he ever saw or heard. Sounds like a gift, right? But in reality, it was a burden. Cheryshev couldn't forget anything, and that made even simple daily tasks incredibly difficult. Imagine trying to tell a story but being unable to ignore past sentences. His conversations became chaotic. His brain stored everything, and instead of being a blessing, it became a heavy mental load. In fact, he actually wished he had the ability to forget. A 2017 study published in Neuron tested how human memory works. Participants were given random word pairs to memorize. Later, when they were asked to learn new words, researchers found that they had forgotten parts of the old list. But here's the twist. Those who forgot previous words actually learned the new ones much faster. This study revealed that our brain actively deletes information to free up space and highlight what's truly important. Our brain isn't a computer. It doesn't store data in a fixed hard drive. Instead, it's a living, evolving system that constantly optimizes itself. And to do that, it has a built-in mechanism: synaptic pruning. Synaptic pruning is how the brain eliminates unused connections to improve cognitive efficiency. Neurons, the brain's cells, communicate through connections called synapses. During childhood, our brain creates an excessive number of these connections, just in case they might be useful. But as we grow, it figures out which ones are actually needed and eliminates the rest. Think of it like gardening. If you let a tree grow without pruning, the branches become tangled and unhealthy. But when you trim the unnecessary ones, the strongest branches thrive. Your brain does the same thing. It prunes unnecessary connections, making learning, focus, and memory sharper and more efficient. So, is forgetting just about cleaning up old information? Not exactly. It's also how the brain updates itself to make room for new knowledge. To learn something new, we have to let go of outdated information. Without forgetting, our brains would struggle to process new knowledge. A 2017 study tested this concept in mice. Scientists genetically locked certain synaptic connections in their brains, meaning these mice could never forget what they had learned. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, it turned out to be a disaster. These mice were terrible at learning new things because their brains couldn't update old information. This is just like a smartphone that keeps installing new apps, but never deletes old files. Eventually, it slows down and crashes. Forgetting, it turns out, is essential for keeping our minds from getting overloaded. Sometimes, our brains distort memories or misremember certain details. But that's not an error. It's an intentional feature of our brain's design. So how does our brain decide which memories to keep and which to erase? It doesn't erase the past entirely. It just pushes unnecessary details to the background. The goal? To enhance cognitive efficiency and prioritize new learning. A 2013 study at Cambridge University tested this by having participants memorize lists of words. When given new lists, they naturally forgot parts of the older ones. But here's the key. This wasn't a conscious choice. the brain automatically erased outdated information to make space for the new. It's the same reason students often forget material right after an exam. The brain filters out details it no longer deems essential. If we remembered everything from every class, our minds would be cluttered with irrelevant information. Forgetting helps us stay organized and efficient. Forgetting isn't just something that happens in human brains. It's a strategy found in nature. Take ants, for example. Ant colonies rely on pheromone trails to communicate and navigate. When an ant finds food, it leaves a chemical trail for others to follow. But these trails fade over time, and that's important. If the pheromone trails never disappeared, ants would keep following outdated paths, wasting time and energy. The fading of these trails ensures only the most efficient routes remain. And this is exactly how our brain works. Unused synaptic connections weaken and disappear, just like old pheromone trails. This process, called synaptic pruning, ensures that only the most relevant connections remain strong. In fact, research from Peter Huttenlocher in 1979 found that babies have twice as many synapses as adults. But as they grow, their brain prunes away the unnecessary ones, keeping only the most efficient pathways. Believe it or not, artificial intelligence is learning to forget, just like us. AI, especially deep learning models, removes unnecessary connections to improve efficiency. Just like our brains, AI begins with too many connections. But over time, it prunes the weak ones, making the system smarter, faster, and more accurate. For example, in image recognition, AI filters out unimportant background details and focuses on the most essential features. Weight pruning deletes low-value connections, similar to how our brain removes weak synapses. Neuron pruning removes inactive neurons, just like how our brain prioritizes active connections. Layer pruning cuts out unnecessary layers of processing, much like how our brain streamlines its pathways. What if our brains never forgot anything? Sounds amazing, right? But hyperthymesia, a condition where people remember every single detail of their lives, suggests otherwise. People with this condition struggle to live in the present because their minds are constantly flooded with past memories. Even simple decisions take longer because their brain recalls every past experience. Imagine going to a restaurant and remembering every meal you've ever had in extreme detail. Instead of helping, this overload paralyzes decision-making. Forgetfulness, it turns out, isn't just useful. It's essential. So, what did we learn today? Forgetting is our brain's secret weapon. It keeps us focused, sharp, and adaptable. It helps us process new information more efficiently. Even AI is now learning to forget, just like we do. At the end of the day, forgetting isn't a flaw. It's what makes learning possible, because sometimes, to grow and evolve, we need to let go.